Okay.
Okay.
So, Vygotsky.
Oh yeah. Well, let's introduce ourselves.
Oh yeah, I'm Madeline.
Emma.
I'm Catherine.
Emily.
So Vygotsky.
This is Vygotsky. Who'd like to start?
Who
did A? Oh,
yeah,
that was me. Okay. So mine is drawing examples from Kola Pinto and your own life experiences to illustrate his ideas, explain how the broader social context plays out in the lives of individuals. So I thought that I really, really, really liked learning about that, the Pidan culture.
Yeah.
And I thought it was so interesting how they just didn't get it. Like, they didn't get some Western culture ideas that we have so ingrained in ourselves. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't that they were, a lot of people were just saying that they were wrong, or like they were like not less than human, but they had something
like
wrong
a more
with,
simple cognitive.
yeah, or they were like the, I don't know if they agreed with this, but they said that they were like the first language, like
like an earlier.
Yeah.
Like they hadn't evolved or something.
Yeah, and I thought it was super interesting. It reminded me of Vygotsky, what he thought about how everything's just socially learned. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the same with language, because what was it about, they don't speak about the past or the future, because
any abstract things.
Yeah, because everything is just in the present, in the moment, and I think that's a huge cultural thing, because if you don't have words, I don't know, chicken or the egg, but like...
True, that's what I thought about a lot.
If you don't have...
What is the order of all that?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Either you had the words, either you believed that you live in the present, so you didn't have to create words for the past.
Right.
Or you didn't have words for the past, so you don't have a concept
of the past.
Yeah.
Right. It was like a little bit confusing to think about for me, because we're talking about language being constructed inside of culture, so like you can't separate the two, but you also can't separate like how you think from like the words that you use or the language of your culture. So what comes first, or like I don't know.
Yeah, the way that you're thinking is formed by language, but then your language is formed by your culture. So I don't know. It's all very intertwined.
And I think this made your pen's
My
leak.
pen exploded yesterday, and it scrubbed it. And, anyways.
I think that this really hit home for me about how important languages are, because obviously language extinction is horrible, and I understood that, but this took it on a whole new level, because I thought if their language was removed, that's all their knowledge about plants, animals, how to survive in the wild, and how the
Amazon.
Yeah, and how they live. If you take all that away, that strips them of everything. Mm-hmm. They'd have to take on a new language, and that wouldn't have any of their knowledge of their life. So I thought that would be, I think it's awesome that they reject everything different.
Yeah.
Like if they were doing that experiment with the monkey going, is the monkey going into the jungle? Like,
away from the jungle.
Yeah. It was really funny. They just, it just was not a tangible
Or like
topic for them.
the little anecdote about the two, I don't remember, some researchers, American maybe, or Western, who came and were trying to sort of connect with them by doing like funny little things.
The kids were like,
okay. That made me laugh about how like frustrated like white people were getting with them.
I think it's also like what you said about how their language is everything to them. Like, if they lost it, and knowing their history of like not like rejecting like other things, like I'm not gonna become westernized, this is how we live. Like if they lost their language, then they would have no culture, no identity.
Yeah.
And I kind of want to connect this to standardized testing, because I did a report on that for our IT class. And I was talking about how like some Native Americans might struggle with the standardized test, because their version of what different words mean changes the way they answer a question. Like, for instance, to them, like a river is alive or something, or that kind of stuff. And so if you ask like which one, is alive.
Yeah,
They would
which
have
is
a really
like-
hard time because that's just culturally ingrained. So, I mean, you really have to understand your students' context and background if you're gonna try to connect. I mean, to understand that standardized tests don't always work. They're kind of a necessary evil, I think.
I think so too.
I would like to go for B or C, I think.
Oh, I am C. Ah, it's gone. I lost it. It's totally gone.
Well, I
Sorry.
oh no, you're good.
What were you saying?
Well, I had B, and I think I don't know. I just wondered what you guys like. How much do you agree with Vygotsky's like ideas about like learning being an interaction that happens between people and then is internalized? Like it moves like from the outside to the inside. I don't know. I thought that was interesting, and I didn't know like.
I think that is true and sometimes, but I feel like there are other times when I internalize things and then share with other people.
Mm-hmm.
Or I've learned something like outside, like if I was just like outside on my own and learned something and didn't
Like
wasn't
interact with your
interacting
environment.
with my environment, I wasn't interacting with someone. Then
Yeah.
That's totally different.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you on that.
Like for example, this summer I was yesterday when we were in our psychology class learning about like different types of intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Like this summer I need to figure out like the subway system in Boston, and like I went in and like there wasn't anyone there and I was just like, okay, this is where I need to go, like I'll find out the spots, and like I
Yeah.
wasn't like interacting with anyone, like that was just me and my environment.
Yeah,
right?
it was more of an interaction with. Yeah.
And then like later when someone came to visit or like I was showing them like which ones to go on, and like that was also helping it like cement my own memory. and
True.
mind.
So there's that kind of like social,
Yeah.
like with the more knowledgeable you would have been the more knowledgeable other in that
Yeah.
situation, I guess.
Yeah, and I definitely felt like because I was teaching her, I was becoming more like confident and like assured and
Well, you remember 95% of things you teach.
That's right.
Got that number down.
I know, right?
Somebody said that in a different class, and I was like, I knew that!
Yeah, that was yesterday.
All our classes are so related this quarter, so
Yeah.
I really like it.
I like it too.
It is cool.
Okay.
Connection.
So
Yeah.
C.
Do you have anything else for B? Or was that?
That was the only thing that I really wanted to like ask you guys about.
Well, I don't really have any questions, but I didn't really spend a lot of time on this yet. It was, according to Vygotsky, language plays a central role in learning. Give examples from the text and illustrate the importance of language and learning. Think about the, how do you say it? The
I don't know.
peer.
What did you say?
What did you
Try
say?
Pura.
It's Pidahan.
Pidahan.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how they said that it was
They had like a
Pidahan.
And how does their language influence their thinking? So Vygotsky thought that language skills were critical for creating meaning and linking ideas to the past and stuff, and thought it played a central role in cognitive development, but then they didn't even have like words for the past. Like they didn't think about the past.
Oh, so you're
Or-
saying, Vygotsky's saying that you learn from the past.
Yeah, and that like it's critical in cognitive development to like connect things to the past and stuff, and that's critical for language learning. But then here's these people that didn't even.
I think that maybe their language is their past.
That is their past.
But
Okay.
it's not that they hold traditional, because they said they didn't have any religion,
Mhm.
right? But they said that the words, like if you learn a word of this one type of plant, this is called, then that is your, I guess, your generational knowledge that's passed along.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I guess, I don't know.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense
I see
for
what
sure.
you're saying.
I didn't really know what else to talk about for C.
Social content.
Okay. Well, I was D, and I was talking about like the zone of proximal development, which we've talked about in psychology, and like what it has to do with teaching and learning, and what roles does teacher have, and giving examples of scaffolding, and I think it's an important thing to realize. I think that our role as teachers is just to be able to provide the scaffolding, no matter what it is. Like. We should be constantly being like, okay, you're here, you want to be here, you want to be challenged, but not like overwhelmed. What can we give you? And like the tools can be anything from like a pencil grip to like a buddy to
Mhm.
like a personal little translator or
Mhm.
whatever. So yeah, I think it's interesting. I also just feel like it's good to have a name for it, but at the same time, like it's like something that I'm like, well, yeah, like
Yeah.
you want to be challenged and you
Yeah.
want to be
Yeah,
above where
okay.
you were. But I'm glad it has a name. I guess it's in
Yeah.
gospel development.
I think that it's really interesting learning about Piaget and Vygotsky because I think that they're both true,
Yeah.
I guess. But I think that some of these theorists, they get an idea stuck in their head and they're like, no, it has to be right. But
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of ways you can explain
Yeah.
that process.
Or just put it together, yeah. I started when watching that video in psychology, I was just thinking about it because they define like their whole curriculum by one theory of like multiple intelligences and like it's great and it's true, but like no, it seems a little extreme, like not to accept
Yeah.
any other like theories and just focus on one.
Yeah.
I think, did you guys read chapter 3 in the book? Oh,
Yeah.
You did? I thought it was really interesting because it just gave examples, 5 different teachers and their teaching styles, and I think one of the main issues in all of them, it was all about like teachers and how they're struggling to deal with their ELL students. And I think the main problem is that a lot of them are stuck in their ways. Like, this is how I've been teaching for so long. You give me like 6 students from Mexico and expect me to change my teaching style. I think that's going to be true when we go into our. I think it's true when we're going to go to our elementary schools. We're going to have a lot of teachers with that kind of mindset.
It's gonna be so hard to like.
Well, it's funny in that situation too, because you're expecting these like foreign children to be so adaptive, and yet you're not willing to.
Adapt to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Another part of the scaffolding, like when it talks about it in the Vygotsky article, that I thought was really interesting is, it says right here, one of the most integral steps in scaffolding consists of keeping the learner from becoming frustrated, which I had never really thought about explicitly, but like now that I think about when I used to get frustrated when I was a student, it was like I would just check out, you know, like I get frustrated and that would make me really emotional because that's what happens when I get frustrated, so I would just get like, mad and then, you know, and then be done with whatever I was trying to do.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I thought that was interesting that was mentioned.
No, I think it's a delicate balance between like being really bored and being frustrated. You
Mhm.
don't want to be like this kid be like twiddling their thumbs, and you also don't want them to be like I can't accomplish anything because I'm
Yeah.
dumb and etc.
And just make them feel disheartened or,
Yeah.
you know.
Yes.
All right, the next part for the Colapinto article.
Oh, yeah.
One second, let me pull mine up. Okay. According to Everett, what are the distinguishing characteristics of Pidaaw language? How does Everett explain these differences? I think that there's a lot of different characteristics. I think
Yeah,
they said
so
that this
different.
was such this is a completely different language that defied the theories that they had going on with Noam Chomsky or whatever.
Yeah, all that part with Chomsky, I thought was
Yeah.
super interesting.
I thought the politics of everything was so fascinating.
Yeah, because nobody, I think, because you guys haven't taken 432.
I have.
I have.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we learned all about that with like treeing
Mhm.
things, and then to learn like, oh, that doesn't actually apply to everything.
And how embedded that structure is, like, in everything we do, like how Microsoft Word, it was talking about how Microsoft uses, like, a tree for just, like, how the files are stored and stuff. And
Yeah.
it's just, like, a structure that's cultural. We made it up.
Uh-huh.
But it's so deeply embedded in our brains that we take it as, like, natural.
As like everyone should.
Yeah, like, oh, that's just how our minds work as humans, but it's not, like,
Yeah.
necessarily. It's something we
It's
learn.
everyone's reality.
Yeah, and I think how did he explain these differences? I think he just basically said that this was an isolated culture that just developed on its own, and it doesn't change for anything.
Yeah, that's why he was like really like. I
Yeah.
think that I was talking to him, he'd be like really excited about that. Like he was like, they haven't changed
Yeah.
Like the only one like in the history of the world saying like,
Yeah, what was they like gave them something and they're like, no,
yeah,
thanks.
want this.
Yeah.
Like farming.
Yeah.
Like, that was one thing.
Like
that.
Yeah. I'm just gonna no. Like
Yeah.
thanks, but
No,
like,
I got it
like,
under
And the
control.
what are the crooked heads?
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's what they called everybody else because they just thought they were so much superior compared to everybody else. So I thought that's really cool. But I also think it's important to point out that like he went in there as a missionary, like with really strong values, and that he was gonna translate the Book of Luke. And but then I think that shows that like he completely turned into an atheist after he worked with that culture. So language has a power to really change your outlook on your whole life.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was quite the like extreme change. I was just like kind of chronicling him and his wife and like their religion and
I thought I wanted to
Interesting.
know more about his wife. I thought she seemed like a really interesting lady, and especially just her approach to talking about the language itself was so much. It just seemed like she looked at it really differently than he did. Like
yeah.
he looked at it as something to be like really figured out and like understood and the culture and the people, but she was like talked more about the feeling and like how the language is like a song, and I don't know. I thought that was really
Yeah,
cool.
that was
it
really
seemed like she had a lot of respect for it.
Yeah, I was D and I was supposed to be talking about like how she interpreted it, like the song, and do you think she acquired it or learned it, or like what does it say about her interpretation? And I thought that was just really fascinating too. I had a question though. I was like, she was saying that the song was the mom teaching the kid, which is probably true, but also like I didn't know if that was just her applying our like Western beliefs to that situation, because that's how we learned when we were younger too. Is like ABCs, it's a song. Like
Yeah.
brush your teeth, that's a song. Like we have a lot of songs when we're little.
So she was singing her dreams, right, or something. She was singing.
That sounds so magical.
I know.
Sounds
Right?
Singing.
So like I think it's probably both. It's probably like she was applying like what she.
That's a really good observation.
Mhm. Yeah, she's saying the language is not the kind of thing that you can write and capture and go back to. You have to watch and you have to feel it.
That's so cool. She sounds
Like,
she sounds so like
I think because she didn't come from a linguistic background, if
Yeah.
I'm correct. He was the one who studied with the linguists, you know.
Yeah.
So he probably.
Yeah, and she's a missionary.
yeah. I think she just brings that like spiritual. Not saying that like being a Christian, you have more understanding, but when you're like that's like really important to you, you're gonna have like a different realm of thinking. It's gonna be like, oh, wait, this is like a song. This is like dreams. You can feel it, but I feel like he isn't more about feelings. He's more about like let's break it down and like.
Yeah, well, he is always drawing comparisons between the reality of their culture and language and, you know, the ideas about culture and language that we have,
Yeah.
or like that the Western.
I thought it was interesting when they moved back and they like built that house that had like TV.
Yeah.
Big TV.
Yeah.
A gun roughing it.
Yeah.
Why? Okay, the other question I have is, so these people are so resistant to outside, you know, things coming into their little realm, and yet these people can build a house like on. Like
Yeah, I was
in
in
their
that too.
village, I couldn't. Maybe I had a different idea of what was going on then.
Or like repeatedly people can come back and like study them, but like perform all these things.
I thought that was very generous of them.
Yeah.
like their cultural values.
Yeah, I feel like what would make sense in my mind if they were like really unaccepting of other cultures, they'd be like really aggressive towards other like people coming in, but they're just like, well, yeah, go ahead, do what you want.
Yeah, do what you want,
Just
but-
stay out.
I
That's
think
not
that
gonna pay that
mindset of
much attention to you.
superiority.
Yeah.
Sorry, what were you saying?
No, you're.
The mindset of superiority. They're probably like these crooked heads.
All
right,
Come
come
on
on
in.
in.
Yes, we'll entertain you for a while.
I think one of them said, even in the article, they said like they even thought that they were just fooling the observers of them. Like, look at these weirdos. Let's just act weird around them.
That's fascinating.
But I also really wonder how long it's going to continue. because there's not very many of them.
350.
Yeah.
That's a small number. This was written in what, 2007?
7. Yeah, I think.
Oh, I know where they're at now.
Yep.
With everything. Oh, you said you were looking into different videos and stuff on them.
Yeah,
Did
but
you
I
see
just
any
watched more
current
of like
stuff?
no, there wasn't much. I think he's the only one that's really studying them.
I want to hear their language. I didn't.
We
should've
can
looked
look.
at it.
Yeah, one of them. There was this. They only have 2 videos that I could find, and
Mhm.
one of them was this guy just speaking, and then it said that they were going to translate what he was saying, and then they just wrote it in their own language, so I didn't understand anything of what he was saying.
Oh.
But the other person, it was this grandma like holding a baby, and she was humming, but it was like hum language.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
I
What?
She was humming. It sounded like a song, or sounded like she had. If you were trying to talk with your mouth closed, that's what it sounded like.
Oh.
It's really interesting.
Well, that's what. Yeah, that's what. How they describe the language in here, because they drop like syllables and.
But there was a quote that in the end of this, and it was, shoot, PETA has always, or is it PETA? Anywho,
And
has
I don't
always
know.
just been out there defying every linguist that's gone out there because you can't start at a segment level and go on. You're not going to find anything out because they can really communicate without syllables. It's like, that's kind of cool. Like, that's right. Ha! You
Yeah.
can't go out there.
Well, it's like when you like know somebody really well, like with one of your siblings, or maybe your best friend. If you just like, even if you're talking with your mouth super full, or like just like saying like sounds that sound like the words you would
Yeah.
mean, like you can kind of come to a mutual understanding. Even I don't know, so maybe it's like that.
Yeah, my friend Felicia and I, we can just like say a word and like then like I'll be thinking of something else or like see something, like she'll like it's like we have our whole different language around each other.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
So maybe it just takes longer to learn because it depends so much more on what's happening, like in the present, like their culture is about.
And I was also thinking, because one of the other questions we're supposed to answer is like, what does her interpretation mean for us as students of a language? And like, it's really good to have a scientific way of looking at things like he did, but I think it's really good to also have that like relational and kind of more like
Emotional intelligence.
emotional connection. Like maybe not like spiritual necessarily, but like she was like emotionally involved.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that's important as well.
And she wasn't trying to compare or fit them in or see how they fit into these other cultural ideas. She was really like getting to know them for them, it seemed like.
That's cool.
And I think this article also made me think of how would I, as an ELL teacher, work to understand, like, to have a mutual communication with students who didn't understand. Like, he said that he had no idea how to connect to these people, and then he would do like he wanted to.
The bus
thing
thing that just did not work.
And
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
and
my mind.
he thought it was some. What did he think it was?
An airplane. He was like, an airplane landed on his arm.
Yeah, because they didn't understand. He had a totally different understanding of what bugs were.
Yeah,
yeah.
Bugs are just part of life.
Yeah, bugs are just a part of life. They can't like bother you. They're just there.
And like even the bzzz sound he was making is so like cultural, but we
Yeah.
would do the same thing, right? If we
Yeah.
were trying to like demonstrate a bug biting us, we'd be like, zzz.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would not think that sound would be cultural.
So I kind of wonder,
Really
like,
is.
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you were to try to, like, I think if I was to go travel and study abroad and work in a community where they spoke no English, you know, I would have to, like, you would take classes and learn their language, but
Mhm.
there'd be you do some acting,
yeah,
and
I
you
feel
have
like
to
I
understand.
should.
Sure.
If people don't understand me, I try and like act out what I'm
Mhm.
trying to get across. But they can't do that.
Yeah, and just understanding the cultural context, like in chapter 3, one of the examples, like she went to a different, I don't remember where she went, but like it was like incorrect to blow your nose in public. And I think that's just so you wouldn't know, you know,
Yeah.
and who knows if you're trying to say something in Spanish and it's just not culturally acceptable what you're saying, and they could get offended. And
One time I was leading this, it was like an HIV awareness seminar, and you like wipe, when you go to the bathroom, you like use one hand and you eat with another hand.
Yeah.
But it was like my first week there, I didn't know that. And I was like talking to the ladies, and we were eating together before the seminar, but I was like eating with both hands, and they were just like so disgusted with me. And I was like, I could tell by their faces and their actions, they're like, oh my She's like,
And you
"Leave
had
her
no
out."
idea.
Like,
Oh, that's so I would do the same
And then
thing.
like, I was like leading the seminar and people were like not even like really wanting to like answer any questions because I was like poop girl. My first thing I was like, what am I doing wrong? Why am I so
How did you figure out that was the?
I like
Did
was-
somebody tell you?
Yeah.
Girl.
I like went up to my friend Jaskira who lives in Pune and I was like, Jaskira, like that was so awful. What did I do wrong? And she's like, I don't know, like they really did not seem to like you. And I was like, yeah. She's like, what did you do before them? I was like, well, I ate with them. And she's like, how do you eat? And I was like, you know, you grab the naan, you like roti, and she's like, use both hands. What are you doing? And I was like, oh, okay. Lesson
Oh
learned.
wow.
So there's like so many little things like that where you're like, oh, okay.
I'd be so nervous to go.
But you probably only did that once.
That's
Yeah.
very true.
Yeah. Process. Okay. You guys have to go in like 10 minutes. I think.
Our
So-
class starts.
Okay. So do we have any other things we want to talk about, or?
I think we really
Are we set?
discussed everything.
Yeah.
So we do have to meet again, like really soon. Are we gonna do that Monday?
I think right now what we should do is we should like email each other and stuff on Canvas.
Okay.
But we are meeting on Monday at 10.
Okay. That works.